Right, here we are again. The last video I did, I stopped at this point. The previous one I looked at the boost map, then I'd come on to the boost limiting map, which was this one. And I mentioned that there was another map in the area that was involved in boost, and that's this one. This one's often called the N75 map, and it's the control actuator map for the turbocharger. I would recommend that you do not touch this map. Lots of people do and they get themselves into trouble. You may, when you get to know a fair bit about tuning, want to touch that map, but at the beginning I would not touch that map. Well, now let's just open it anyway at the moment. So we'll double click on there, and there we are, we've got the map. It looks as if we've got problems straight away because it looks like some of these figures are completely nonsensical. So it looks like Winols has picked up a bit of a problem with the figures, but we'll sort that out as we go along. Let's have a look and see what we can work out. That one's already saying rev per minute. Engine speed, rev per minute. Well, if it is, then this is wrong. So we'll change that to 1 and see what it does. They're idle type speeds, aren't they? Maximum speed, somewhere up around here. Seems reasonable. Okay, so we'll accept that. So we'll say OK. Right, now what have we got up here? This one poses much more of a problem, doesn't it? Because what are we actually seeing here? So we could be seeing anything. Is this 35? Is it 350? Is that 58? Is it 580? Or is it even 5,800? Let's take a gamble, because that's all it is when you first start on these things. Let's take a gamble that it's injection quantity. And let's assume that then that will make it milligrams per stroke. If you've been watching these videos, we've done lots of these now, so we know that that's 0.01. And we know that it's often worth having a precision that's not simply 0 or 1. 1 will do, sometimes 2. So what we'll do is we'll go for 1 at the moment, and we'll assume that this is right. So in other words, this is the amount of fuel that we're injecting. Now that leaves us with this. And to be honest, I don't think there is any way that you could work out what this is. Because is that 8,000? Is it 800? Is it 80? Is it 8? Very, very difficult to know what you're looking at there. But of course, a quick search on a chip tuning forum will very, very quickly tell you what you're looking at there. This is the output for the actuator to control the actuator, and it's a percentage. So what I'll do is I'll call this the N75 map because so many people do. But you could argue it's a boost control map, but I'll do that because so many people do that. And the description, I'm going to call that percentage because I know it's a percentage. And in unit, I'm just going to put a percentage sign because percentages don't have a unit as such, do they? They just use the percentage sign to designate that they are percentages. Now that gives me 8,000. No, it obviously isn't 8,000. And it's not likely to be 800 because generally people don't talk about percentages over 100. So I'm going to take a guess that if I put 0.01 in there, that this will read a sensible number. 80% sounds reasonable. I'm going to go for 1 decimal point just in case. I doubt I'll ever need more than 1. I mean, we can do that now, can't we? We can go for 2, but I really don't think it's going to make any difference here. I mean, you can see I've picked up an extra digit, so having 2 there has done something. But to be honest, on this occasion, I could add more or less, but I'm going to stick with 1. I think that will be good enough for this. The reason why I'm being fussy about that is because every time I add another digit, the whole map has to get wider, because obviously it needs room to fit everything in. So this would be getting wider and wider and wider because I would have added a naught, a naught, a naught, a naught, and so on. So there is a reason why I try to keep this to a sensible number. Right, now let's have a look and see what have we got and does it make sense. Now of course, whether this makes sense depends on how well you understand boost control in one of these PD turbo diesels. Now I can tell from a quick glance that this makes perfect sense, because what it's telling me is that the instant the engine starts at very low revs, no matter where I've got the accelerator pedal, so almost no matter what I do with the amount of fuel I inject, what I've actually got is maximum 80%. Now that number usually ranges between 80 and 95, so if you get 100 in there, that's very unusual, because generally speaking, when they design these maps, they don't put 100% for boost control. So 80% there, 90%, 95%, that's perfectly normal. And what that means now is that the actuator is pulled fully open, ready to give me maximum boost. So that tends to confuse people sometimes. So the turbocharger, as soon as you switch the ignition on, is ready to give you maximum boost. It's not going to give you maximum boost, of course, because it's not spinning. It needs to spin up. And as it spins up, it will give you too much boost. So if I follow one of these rows as the columns change, doesn't matter which one, but let's pick one that's got fairly high injection quantity. If I follow it, I've got 80%, 80%, 80%, 80%, and as the revs rise, the actual request for boost is falling. Look, 72, 59, 51, and it's ending up at 25. So in other words, the faster I rev the engine, the less demand for boost will occur. And that often confuses people, because they assume they are demanding more boost, but they are not. Simply because if they were demanding more boost, they would now be over boosting. So what this map is doing is it's reducing the boost request. So it's reducing the amount of boost you can have, but all the time the actual amount of boost that's being outputted is still rising. So this map is just preventing it from rising, A, too fast, and B, out of control. So that's what this map is all about, which is why if you play around with these numbers, you can cause yourself lots of trouble. And one of those troubles could well be the turbocharger going bang. So you've been warned, don't play with this map unless there is good reason to play with this map. Right, I'm going to save that, and then I'll just get rid of that one, and I'll stop there for now.